This is the Jeff Crilley Show on Talk Radio 1190.
Welcome back to the Jeff Crilley Show. I'm so excited about my next guest, Cory Proctor. You guys remember him. Certainly any Dallas Cowboy fan remembers him. He was an outstanding guard for the Cowboys and the Miami Dolphins, and he played some outstanding football in Montana. Welcome to the Jeff Crilley Show.
Thanks for having me.
Okay,
this mic is like crazy right now. To be
I
honest.
know. It's well, we need to work on the mics here. But Cory, I'm so excited to have you in studio. I'm going to call you a gentle giant. You have this very gentle spirit about you. But I know football. I mean, you got to be an animal, don't you?
Got to be. I mean, it's funny because my mom calls me that, the gentle giant. You always have this gentle giant, and but in football, you have to develop. I don't know if it's a wall or a demeanor or anything to, you have to have an intimidating force, at least presence, to get your job done.
Well, I know you're taking a lot of lessons that you learned on the football field and now trying to inspire others. So let's talk about the transition from playing football into what you can do to motivate people.
Well, my story is kind of is interesting because obviously, I made it to the NFL, 6 years in the league, cut short, ruptured my patella tendon, ended it with a whole lot of surgeries, which was crazy. But, like any football player, I'm trying to figure out what the heck I want to do, right? So I go into sales. So I'm working with this beverage company called KLIFF out of Atlanta for the last 3 years, which has been more of a seasoning, I believe, for me. But I've always had this platform because of playing to speak to others. Right, and it lends some credibility, and I've always it's interesting to me is the comparison of the people that have made it to the top or the vision of that, and then everybody else. I'm like, what separates those? And so that's okay. This is a platform that gives me any sort of credibility to speak with a crowd, but it seems that when I do, it has an impact. And anyways, and I've had parents, pastors, friends, family push me in that direction even more, and it's been kind of prevalent in the last year or more as more of these opportunities have naturally taken place.
Absolutely. Well, it occurs to me that football is such a great metaphor for life anyway. I mean, you have wins, you have losses, you have deadlines. What are the greatest lessons that you learned playing football that apply to an average person's life?
Some of the biggest lessons, we started talking about this right away, was action, right? And not everybody, or I think a lot of the culture today kind of pushes this inaction, or it's not your fault, this is the way you are, and it pushes you in this spot that it's okay,
right,
where you are, and you're born into this, and your problems are your problems, you can't ever change them, and there's a lot of that festering in the culture, and that's not the case for the people who are making it. People who are in this room here interviewing right now are taking actionable steps now, right? And it's not just talk about it. It's not like what would be great. And yes, those are great. We need conversation to spur ideas. But okay, from this conversation right now, what's the next step?
Right.
And on the football field, like we were just talking about, you have a 15-second huddle, and there was a lot of preparation going into that. But you have a 15-second huddle to call play, get any conversation done between yourselves, and get on the line and run a play.
Right. And I also have to believe that there's great leadership lessons. Like when you're in the huddle, everybody is turning to the leader, and the leader can't show fear, can he? I mean, it's the leader has to have that. Hey, I'm gonna see you in the end zone.
It's a level of consistency that takes place. Tony Romo, as much as everybody loves him and hates him, right? This guy was consistent all the time. You talk about Jason Witten or anybody else who's made it. Donald Driver, I love his story, right? This guy you're talking about he lived in a U-Haul truck with his family down in Houston.
Wow.
I mean, talk about no place to stay, right? I mean, it's amazing to where he's at now. And you talk about the level of consistency that you have to be that, whether you're winning or losing, and then take those lessons to the next level. But that's what Tony and Jason and Donald Driver and a lot of those guys do is, yes, a quarterback in the huddle is, okay, this is our job. This is what we got to do. Now, whether we get it done is a whole different story, right?
Right.
But we're taking steps to make it happen.
Absolutely. How about overcoming defeat? Because I've got to imagine there were games when you just got blown out, and you can't dwell on it. You got to shake that off because you got another game in 6 days.
That was huge. That's the hardest part, right? Is how about getting kicked in the
right.
gut and saying, okay, life still happens. We got to keep trucking. Right, and it doesn't matter what's happening right now. You just got to keep moving, however that looks.
Right,
and that happened a lot on the field all the time. Right, you might be killed. 2008 season was where I started for Kyle Kozer at left guard, and we were so up and down that season. And it was play fantastic and be down in the next second. We got killed by St. Louis, who was 2-14 that season. We were one of their 2 wins.
Wow,
and everybody, the Cowboys suck. They're fantastic
right.
next week, but you have to have this turnover rate in your mind. Just keep coming back to work and
right.
trying not to let it affect you, the outcome.
I think is Dallas a tough place to play football? Because I mean, there's so much emphasis on the Dallas Cowboys, and unlike other towns where people might be able to name the quarterback or the running back, almost everybody on the Cowboys becomes a star. Was there a lot of pressure associated with living in this town and working in this town?
Me personally, I didn't think it was any extra pressure. Now, it was a different atmosphere for sure. The past teams and kind of the history of the Cowboys. That's a hard question. I don't think it's any tougher than any other team because it's still the league, it's still the NFL.
Right.
Even if you're playing in Cleveland or Detroit or some teams that are traditionally awful, the margin of defeat and victory in the league is less than 7 points.
Wow, yeah,
that's less than a score.
Right.
And that's the difference between a winning season and a losing season. And I just got off track of where I was headed with that.
No, you're fine. I have to also believe, we talk about leadership. Well, let's talk about the idea of a team, because as you know, all it takes is one person not doing their job and the team loses. And so depending on each other and lifting each other up. And I mean, let's talk about that and how that applies to maybe, a corporation.
To me, the first thought that comes to mind is speech right there. What comes out of your mouth, right? Because in those times, and this happens in life, right? Something screws up.
Right.
It's our nature to want to point at people.
Right.
It was his fault, it wasn't mine. If you would have done this, we would have had it. If you would have made the catch,
right.
you would have got the block, we would have got it done. That's a recipe for just demise, disaster, death,
yes.
everything, right? That's what the enemy wants, to put those kind of thoughts in your head.
Right.
Right. But in those moments of those defeat, what kind of atmosphere are you developing? Are you progressing with your speech to manifest those actions, right? And that's what the group of the team, that's why we're powerful in numbers is when somebody does screw up, I got you. I'm picking you up, right? If I let up a sack, I'm picking up my quarterback.
Right.
I'm saying I'm not going to do that again.
What are you called to speak about?
It's those transitions. To me, I see so much apathy and so much of that cultural, it's okay to sit where you're at and not to be better. And to like, what if I can be a better husband for my wife? What pushes me in that aspect? I want to see people that have a fantastic marriage, and no one's going to be without problems. I want to see somebody who has a fantastic marriage or a fantastic job or a fantastic culture at the place they work. I want to use them as a model. I want to use those stories, right? We have a couple in here right now, as husband and wife, that are talking about taking their business to the next level.
Right.
I want that, right? And I want to champion that, because that story is really what's going to draw other people in to do the same thing.
Yes.
That makes me want to be a better husband to my wife and a better dad to my daughter, brother to my brothers, and friend. It calls us to a way higher place.
That's
and
so
gets us out of
powerful.
the comfort zone.
Well, you're used to playing in front of 100,000 people. Do you one day see yourself speaking to 100,000 people?
I do. I have this it's funny because I've had this vision, and that's why I say these opportunities have naturally taken themselves. I spoke last month to a Stronger Men's Conference. James River Church put that on up in Springfield, Missouri, and over 7,500 men were at this. And it was a basic Q&A. It was really easy. Me and Derek Johnson, who's a linebacker in Kansas City still, but I have this vision in my head of this giant platform, and I'm pulling people I meet, stories, friends, family who've had incredible down slumps, right? You're like in a crappy place in life, and you've overcome that somehow, right? Because everybody's going to be in that place somewhere, and it could be, the loss of a loved one. It could be just a failing business, and it could be like rupturing your patella tendon, and your career is cut short in the NFL.
Wow.
And you have this, why me, can really quickly turn into woe is me, right? And let's turn that the other way around. How do we progress through that that's going to make me stronger?
Wow, Cory, you are inspirational.
Sorry.
I love it. I love it. We're out of time for this segment, but will you come back again?
Yes,
yeah,
I would love it.
Been a great guest, and I can't wait to watch your speaking career take off. When we come back, we're going to be talking to a young lady who's going to teach us all how to save a small fortune, especially if your business has anything to do with sales tax. That's next on the Jeff Crilley Show.
You're listening to The Jeff Crilley Show on Talk Radio 1190.